Hi friends, I look little sad. So funny myself. There is a reason for that. Climate is very bad. And I have no greeneries here. I have got some plants here. And I'm thinking I will try to produce one video today. Do I look very gloomy? Okay. Then I will begin. Alright? So my dear friends, welcome back to my channel. Today my topic is once again connected with the class 10 Nagaland board. I take my topic from Orient Blacksman of class 10 students. So today I bring before you another topic that is very interesting and very famous, well-known character. The well-known character is Anna Frank. Class 10 students of CBSE board is studying now about Anna Frank. I happened to see their text and I thought I will try to interpret, or I try to give a brief introduction to the background. So I started reflecting about a hook that can catch the students, with which they can go ahead in learning about Anna Frank. Anna Frank's diary is very, very famous, and till class 12 or postgraduate even, they may be studying about Anna Frank. Without knowing the background to this particular character, if you study only the diaries, you will get only some information. But these diaries are the product of big struggle, hard time, a disappointed time, and very, very difficult time, a time which the world saw as dark, a dark world. Why do I say it was a dark world? Because when we go to the story of Anna Frank, the background is taking us to that dark side of the world, where she was in a very, very hard time, facing a hard time with families and with others. So let me bring to you what was the background to Anna Frank's diary writing. So we are going back to Second World War. When Second World War was on the move, the countries were very, aggressive to each other, and the Second World War was highly taken into consideration because of Nazism. So when we think about the Second World War, we are thinking about Nazism, which was headed by Adolf Hitler. And you will be knowing, when we study about the Second World War, how Adolf Hitler was against the Jews and against this Jewish community, and tried to make new laws and rules for their survival in Germany. Most of the people in Germany were Jewish, and they increased in number year by year, and this was a kind of a step. This was a kind of a turning step for Hitler, and that also was during the Second World War. So you should have the background for Anna Frank, the Second World War. Second World War was her background, when the Jews were persecuted, taken into custody, in small number and in large number, and they were even murdered without any mercy. That was the time. And Germany wanted the Jews to be clear of, get rid of Jews. That was the policy. So you can imagine and see, Adolf Hitler acted as a dictator who manipulated humanity, we can say that, and there was no humanity in his eyes, and there was no human in his eyes. So he began to capture all the Jews from Germany. So Jews began to flee from Germany. They went to Scotland, Holland, Netherlands, and to the neighboring countries for their survival. So Anna's Frank family also had the same problem. They were chased away. In fact, they were not chased away, they ran towards Netherlands. Anna Frank had a lot of hope in Germany, but all that was shattered in no time. She had to flee from Germany to Netherlands, where her father Otto Frank had an official building which became their secret annex, and they were living there for some years. So even in that secret chamber or secret annex, she was finding very, very difficult. You know, people at that time, they were running away from the Nazis, soldiers, because they were always on duty to different locality, and they were always on the watch, who is moving, where one is moving, and everyone was questioned, no freedom was given, and this was a kind of a torture for the entire Jewish community. So we can imagine what would have happened to Anna Frank from family too. They ran towards Netherlands and took shelter in the secret annex, which was the official building of Otto Frank. So they were living quite safely there for some times, but all of a sudden the secret agents of Hitler searched, and they were exposed to the German soldiers. Soon they were captured from the secret annex. The whole family was taken together with the relatives to the prison, the concentration camp, and they were staying on there. But Anna Frank started keeping a record of her life from the very beginning, when she started staying in a secret annex. That is the floor, that is the building where her father was officially doing his job. So from that secret annex itself, she began to write her diary. She began to record each and every day's events and facts and things into written work. And she called that diary Kitty, because in the secret annex she didn't have any other friend other than the closest friend, which is the diary. So that is known as Kitty. So if anyone is asking who was the best friend of Anna Frank, the Kitty, the diary, because to that diary she could write anything. There was no complaints, there was no arguments, there was no disliking. She could write everything and anything into that beautiful diary of her own life. And from there they were taken to the concentration camp. Even in the concentration camp, while they were living there, she began to pen her diary for each day. Each day's events, each day's problems, each day's feelings, and how they interacted, how the soldiers were treating them, etc. So everything was taken into record by Anna Frank, even in the present. And due to her ill health in the prison, she was succumbed to her illness. She died. But before dying, she recorded everything and anything for a lifelong memory for the next generation to generation. And that is what students of today are reading. Anna Frank, the diaries. And this is the best information that we have about Second World War. She died even in the prison, and she was left known. It was during this time the World War was coming to an end. 1942, 1943, 1945, the World War was coming to an end. Why? Because of the dropping of the atom bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And that was a big failure, attack, counter-attack for Hitler, and he had to withdraw all his armies, and finally the World War came to an end. And when the World War came to an end, we can see Otto Frank was released from the prison, and Otto Frank managed to keep all her writings, that is called the diaries, in a very safe place, and he published it. And that is what we are reading through in our schools and in our novels. Anna Frank, her diary. So we can see here, what are these diaries? Diaries are daily recordings of her feelings, of her life from morning till evening. So in today's world, many are interested in recording their daily events. So one of the informations about the World War II and the events and the facts and the way they were treated was all mentioned in the daily diaries of Anna Frank. So if anyone is reading that, they will come to know the real facts of, or we can say the historical facts of the World War II, and how people treated people, humans treated humans in the midst of this great tragic war. So my dear students, when you are going through these diaries of a young girl, Anna Frank, you must know the background first. The Second World War, the persecution and the ill treatment of Jewish people by Hitler, and the concentration camp, the Holocaust. These are the backgrounds with which we need to go forward. Then only reading the diaries will have some effect on our mind. So this is the background for class 10 students, and try to relate this background with your present time. Even in present time, wars are going on, tensions are going on, everywhere lot of issues are arising. People are not free, they are living under fear. So in this kind of a context, we must learn to write down the diaries. They will be useful in the later years. So wishing you all the best for today's reflection. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.